Heather here. Welcome back to the channel. Today we will be discussing some of the cons that I have dealt with personally because of my dissociative identity disorder. Um, some of them will go into more detail on later dates in videos, but this is kind of just an overview of some of the things that have happened because of my dissociative identity disorder. First off, and this is going to be something I'm going to say all the time, and it's going to be something that I'm going to do a huge video on eventually. I just have to figure out exactly how to say it. Having dissociative identity disorder is not quirky, it's not cute, and it often leads to terrible stomach aches and headaches when someone comes out. A feeling of you not knowing who you are, where you are, what date it is, depending on what triggered what. Um, and it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not like one of the littles comes out and everything is hunky dory and then they go back in and I come back out and I feel like nothing happened. Anytime one of them comes out, they drain my energy, which gives me headaches, tummy aches, flashbacks, PTSD stuff, because PTSD and I have both of those, and they both tie together, really tie together a lot. Um, so like I'll just be driving down the road one day and a song will come on the radio that I might have heard when something happened that was traumatizing to me. And I have to turn it down because as soon as I hear that song, I start feeling myself dissociating. I don't really know how to explain what dissociating feels like, but I can tell you this: it does not feel fun. You feel very disconnected from the world. The world around you feels like a cartoon. You feel like you're watching actions, others' actions, through somebody else's eyes. And then when you come to, not only are you getting a headache and a stomach ache, but you feel drained. Depending on how long the person was out or how long they or what they needed to discuss, you can feel drained in different ways. So it's definitely not a fun feeling. When I notice that I'm getting ready to dissociate because of a song, if I'm in the car with my family, I just say, "Hey, can we turn this song off, please?" Because I can feel it. It's really hard to explain. You feel kind of like dizzy, not attached to your body, not attached to the world at all. Um, not not yourself. Like you can tell someone else is coming out. And it's a very unfortunate side effect of dissociative identity disorder that I don't think gets talked about enough. Because I think people try to make it out to be this quirky, fun illness, and then Hollywood makes it out to be this amazing illness that's going to get you like counselors who are going to be attached to you hand and foot, like you see in movies like Sybil, for example, or like in TV series like United States of Terra. And for someone who grew up lonely, seeing that dissociative identity disorder gave those shows people attention can sometimes cause people to act like they have it when they really don't, just because they think they're going to get special attention for it. You are not entitled to special attention just because you have dissociative identity disorder. That is like one of the biggest things. Like, I keep it real and raw and blunt on this channel. You are not entitled to special attention. You are accountable for whatever happens when those alters come out. So we're gonna do some story times. Like I was gonna do like reenactments, but I just don't feel like they will be as real and raw. So I'm putting out there right now this first story, big trigger warning. I will edit the video and put the timestamp when I'm done talking about this story in the video so you can skip over it. But this is the story about the angel in the hospital incident. Um, so trigger warning, just letting you know. So I'm actually going to go into detail with it because I feel like it needs to be said. So, Angel has come out in the hospital twice, but the most recent and scariest one was in 2019, I think, um, where she found out she wasn't going to get her baby blanket. And the system, we have that baby blanket. We are attached to that baby blanket. Like, it's bad. Like, if I don't have my baby blankets, I can't sleep. Um, and once the baby blanket got taken away, the majority of that day was just everybody just bawling their eyes out. And then talking to the doctor. And then the second day, after talking to the doctor and getting prescribed medicine, and we found out we could have the blanket, but it was up to the nurses, and then the nurses said no, that's when Angel came out. So Angel came out, and she came out in full force. And this does not happen very often, so, like, don't freak out or anything. She came out in full force. She was like, why can't I have my baby blanket? Do you think I'm going to unalive myself with my baby blanket? I'm not going to do that with my baby blanket. It means too much to us. We would never do that with our baby blanket. And then she went on to say, and this is while there are clients sitting in the day room, and I'm still a fairly new admit, so they don't really know anything about me at this time except what they've seen. And so then, with clients sitting in the day room, and I only know this part because one of the people that was my roommate in the hospital told me. Angel proceeded to go on a rampage of how she could kill herself with the stuff provided. She talked about the hand sanitizer. She talked about the sheets and blankets, the ceilings, she talked about, like, all the stuff she could do to unalive herself in a day room full of clients who were in the hospital because they were, at that time, probably feeling the same way I was when I went in, which was suicidal. And she talked about all these things she could do and how she could do them, and in front of everybody. Loud, really loud. I vaguely remember, I think there were like 3 or 4 staff around us at the time. I saw a lot of shadows around us. So I think we got close to being put into, like, I don't know, a restraint or something. I don't know. But it was bad. And so then when they told her, no, you're not getting your blanket, she's like, well, she knew the body was 18. So she's like, well, then if I'm not going to get my baby blanket, I came in here voluntarily. I can sign myself out. And we'd already been prescribed the medicine, which is what we were there for in the first place, was just to get put on new medicine. And so she signed herself out. Or she said she would sign herself out. And they got her back her stuff. We got the baby blanket back. And then they wouldn't give us the medicine. And that's when I came to. And I'm like, what about my prescriptions? And, like, I'm there voluntarily, so I don't know if Angel's little spiel actually put me on, like, 72 hours suicide watch or something. But I was like, what about my prescriptions? Because once I signed out, I was just going to go get my prescriptions and be done, because I knew that's all I needed. They looked at me and they said, you were leaving before the doctor recommends you leave, so you're not getting your prescriptions. And so then I was like, well, then I guess I'm just going to have to stay because I'm here for prescriptions. And had no idea what exactly had been said prior to that, except that Angel had signed out, and then I came to as soon as they handed me the bag and the thing to sign. And I didn't find out what happened until one of my roommates told me. So, but like I said, it may have been Angel but everybody saw me. And I said this in my live stream before, and it's something I am going to continue to try and, discuss at length with people. Um, they saw me. They didn't see Angel. They didn't know that it was an angry 10-year-old who was just trying to protect the system because she knew that without that baby blanket, there wasn't going to be much help given because we needed the baby blanket. Um, and so, but they saw me. And so I was the one who had to take accountability. I was the one who had to be like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I'm not signing out. I'm sorry for whoever is down there waiting for a room, but I'm not signing out until I can get my prescriptions. I'll stay till the doctor recommends. Totally different, like very obviously different person, which was me, the host, after Angel's outburst. Now, I never actually got diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder at the short-term hospitals, but for everybody, including the clients, it was very obvious, and I don't know why they didn't diagnose me with it. Probably because of the stigma around it. But the first time I went to the hospital, Angel came out because they put us with a cognitive behavioral therapist, and one of the first things he told us was that we were not different people. We were all just thoughts. And Angel came out and was like, no, I'm a person. I am I'm this old. This is what I want to do when I grow up, blah, 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 blah. Got really mad. And then I remember the coming to, and the counselor asking if he needed to ask the nurses for any extra help to get me to my room. And I looked at him and I started crying. I'm like, what happened? I was like, what happened? He's like, do I need to get nurses to help you to your room? I'm like, no, I can go to my room by myself. I didn't even know what happened, and he wouldn't answer. So it was weird, but then I remembered it later because Sam told me. And I guess a couple times Carissa came out during that hospital visit too, which was interesting because she colored some pictures for her friends and signed her name on them. And just an FYI, every single one of them has their own signature. Like, it's very distinct whose signature is what. Sam always writes with his left hand. Carissa always has the C's and the R's backwards. And Susan kind of writes in like this block kind of font. And that's just 3 examples I can think of. But yeah, see, so those are some of the bad things that can happen because of dissociative identity disorder. I don't understand why people look at it and think it's a quirky, fun, special mental illness. Like, I don't understand that. Because for me personally, it's been hell. Like, for anybody who doesn't know, I've been fired from 3 jobs because of mental illness. 2 of them because the employer found out that I had dissociative identity disorder. Because of the stigma around it and the fact that Hollywood makes it look like all your personalities don't have control and you can't control and anything like that, but you can get control. And the worst thing is about the jobs that fired me is I was in counseling at the time working on those issues. I was working on my issues of, communication with everybody inside and all that stuff. But it wasn't enough for the places that fired me. They just said, oh, we don't think you're safe to work around kids. And I'm like, why not? It's like, I've been here a year almost and I haven't had any issues. I've been here 6 months almost and I haven't had any issues. Why am I not allowed to work around kids alone anymore? What? It's not like I did anything abusive towards the children. it was all because of my mental illness that they found out about. They're like, yeah, no, you don't need to work with kids, so we're going to put you somewhere else. Or the other job, they didn't even hint at it. Like, I told, like, the other job, when that friend found out and then went and told the higher ups, when it wasn't, like, I wasn't even at work at the time. I wasn't even at work at the time when my friend found out. They told the higher ups, well, I thought she was my friend, I guess I should say. They told the higher ups, and the higher ups had like these notes that some of the kids had written this person they thought was their friend. And I saw the notes in their hand, and they had called me in the office, and I'm like, okay, I already know what this is about. For the record, none of those letters were written while I was on the clock. None of them. And so, for the record, those are off-record letters. They were not written while I was on the clock. You cannot get me in trouble for that. Like, I knew they couldn't do anything for that. But then they started using my arthritis as an excuse. And I failed the Jamar test they made me take. I failed it twice. And they were going to not even pay me. They were going to have me out of work for like a month to get strengthened up for the Jamar test for a second test before they let me back in. And they weren't going to pay me. Human Resources shut that down quick. And I got paid what I deserved and was able to pay my bills that month. But yeah, that was what they blamed it on, was my arthritis. They didn't think that I could handle myself with some of the kids because of my arthritis. And we're not going to go into details about that because that's a totally different story. But that's just some of the bad things that have happened. Like, there's times, like I said, I'm driving down the road, a song comes on the radio from my high school years, and all of a sudden, I'm back in my high school years, remembering something terrible that happened in my high school years. Or Angel comes out because she's really, really angry, and she's going over 20 on the speed limit and gets pulled over by a cop. That's happened before. Oh, that was the most expensive freaking speeding ticket I ever had. Not even kidding. And it's not fun. It's not something to be ashamed of, but it's not something that's fun to have. And it's definitely not something that needs to be all over the internet as something it's not. When I say that, I mean like people saying, oh, well, my fictive decided to come out today, so here I am. This is my fictive. If it's your fictive, why are you saying my? Ever since I was little, I always used we to describe me. I didn't even know that that was part of dissociative identity disorder. I always use we to describe me. And I remember there were times in high school when I would say we, and my counselor would catch me saying we, and she'd be like, we? Who? And then I would be like, we, my mom and I just come up with something off the top. Like, I didn't know that it wasn't normal to say we when you were talking about yourself. And so when people say things like, oh, my fictive came out, and they got the TikTok video where their fictive is smiling at the camera and doing the winky thing that you see all the time, and they say, this was my fictive coming out and they wanted to take a video. Who edited the video? If your fictive came out, who edited the video? And why did you have to edit in the words that it was your fictive? Why was that so important? So yeah, there are some not so great stigmas tied to dissociative identity disorder. And I know that this has gone on a long time, but people need to realize that faking any disorder at all is very, very detrimental to the people who actually have said mental illness or said disorder. Very detrimental. Because as you can see with Hollywood and some of the YouTubers and TikTokers I've seen, as you can see, they literally show it as something super scary, but that if you have it, everybody will love you. That's not the way it works. Everybody inside is a different person. If Angel comes out, and you know Angel comes out, you're going to respond differently to Angel. One of my counselors described it as an energy shift. One time Angel came out, she's like, oh, I could tell it wasn't you. There was just an energy shift, and they were talking loud, and they were really proud about something they did that wasn't really nice, and it was an energy shift. That's what you feel. You feel the energy shift. If a child altar comes out, like if Carissa were to come out, you would treat her like a child, but you would also be holding her accountable for adult things. So like if Carissa ever came out, I'm trying to think of a good example. If Carissa ever came out at like a fairground, okay, and she decided she wanted to ride all the rides and scream at the top of her lungs through the whole entire rides, even the little ones like the Ferris wheel, and drive anybody around her nuts to the point that they tell her she's annoying, she needs to be like, we need to be held accountable for that. I don't really know how else to explain it, but when an altar comes out, yes, it is a different person, but people see me. And it's not always obvious. You know, there are the obvious times, like at the hospital with Angel, but usually, like I said before, it's very little. I mean, I do have good stories about dissociative identity disorder, but those good stories are just kind of funny ha-has. And I want to be real and raw about this. It is not fun to have this. And when I see people like so excited to show off their personalities and show off what their personalities would wear and talk like their personalities, it just kind of like weirds me out. Because even if they have communication there and they're doing that, how are they doing that so quickly? Because like for me, like I said, someone comes out, energy gone, headache, stomach ache, probably both gonna happen. If I was one of those TikTokers who decided that I was going to do a TikTok on all my personalities and just, you know, every other frame a new personality, can you imagine how exhausting that would be? Like, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Just being like, okay, Carissa, you can introduce yourself. All right, nope, go back in, Carissa. Now it's Sam's turn. It's exhausting. No one wants to do that. Or no one should want to do that if they actually have it, because it's exhausting. Now, I might be wrong. Maybe not everybody with it experiences headaches and stomach aches like I do when somebody comes out. But I experience headaches, stomach aches. I experience where I don't know what date it is. I'll think it's like 2003. I experience times when I don't know what age I am. I always know that I go by Heather. But when the others are out, I know who they are because I know who came out. But yeah, that's just some things to think about with dissociative identity disorder. Things that can trigger things. Music, smells, all that stuff can trigger things. And sometimes it can trigger to a point that it's almost like PTSD, and the fact that I'm going into a flashback, but I'm telling the part that is out that it is currently 2023 and not 2003, and that they're safe. You know, so, I mean, I hope this was informative. I hope that it made sense. Like I said, we'll go into more detail about all of this. Way more detail. I'll even write a script in the future. I was kind of just going off the cuff with this today because I really needed to get this off my chest, because I don't think that people realize just how stigmatized and detrimental having this disorder can be for certain jobs and for certain bosses, as I've said before, where no problems for a year, and then they find out, oh, you've been writing a blog about your dissociative identity disorder, and let your kids come out and talk a little bit. Well, I guess you're not able to work with kids anymore. That's not how that works. And that's not how it should work. But that's the way the world's made it. And that's why I was ashamed for so long to speak up about it. And that's why I'm still scared to speak up about it to this day. Because I enjoy what I do right now. All the jobs I do, and not having a job at this point in time would be a detriment to me. Not having a full-time job would be a detriment to me. But because of the last 2 times full-time jobs found out about it, I worry that it's going to happen again. I have no trust that it won't happen again. And it's so unfair of me to be that way. To put all jobs that have fired me for a mental illness into one thing and be like, well, I better not say anything, because since these 3 jobs didn't like that I had it and fired me because of it, then once this job finds out, I'm sure they'll fire me too. And that's not fair. You should never group people like that. The current job I've been at 7 years. No issues. And I wish I had more trust. Not only myself, but in the fact that my coworkers would be okay with this, and it wouldn't cost me my job. But yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about. I'm probably going to edit this down a lot, because I went almost 30 minutes. So yeah, but thank you guys for watching, and I hope this was informative for you. And this has been Heather signing off. Bye, guys.